To John, and before you guys leave tonight, we do have ICC's got some giveaways, and we got some books and swag in exchange for an eval. So we'll pass these out closer to the end or between talks.
All right. Hi, my name is John Kruger. I'm an independent consultant here in the Columbus area. I do a wide variety of things from .NET, Ruby on Rails. Lately doing a lot of Agile stuff, helping Agile teams out. You know, we all, like as developers, we like to talk about like frameworks and technology and hacking on stuff. You know, we all geek out on that kind of thing. And I've always sort of enjoyed that, but as time's gone on, like I've realized there's a lot more to what I'm doing as a software developer than just that kind of stuff. And actually, it's all the other stuff that really has a big impact on my life and my career. You know, I'm 30-some years old, and I'm probably going to be doing this for another 30 years, so hopefully I'm doing something that I'm enjoying, and I'm going to make the best of it. So this talks about your career, and about what you want to get out of your career. You know, your job's a big part of your life. You spend 8 or so hours a day at work. You probably spend more time outside of work thinking about work. Maybe you hack on code at home. But it's also about you, you know, what you want overall out of life. You know, finding a purpose maybe bigger than just what you're doing at work. You may have a family or other interests outside of work that you feel are important. A lot of people don't really know what they want. You may think you do, but do you actually, you know, how many of you actually know what you want out of your career or what you want out of life? Or maybe you do, but how do you know? Maybe you don't know how to get there, or maybe you know how to get there, but you have a hard time being disciplined enough to actually follow through with things and make it happen. And the other problem is, you know, we don't have enough time in the day. You know, we can always acquire more knowledge, we can acquire more money, we can save the money we have and use it tomorrow, but we all only get 24 hours a day. And then whatever you don't use, you lose it the next day. So with that being said, we need to figure out how to make the best use of our time. So if you're like me, you probably feel like you don't have enough time in the day. I have kids, so that takes up a lot of time, and I have a job, and I have a wife and other things, and all this stuff takes time. So it's hard to find time for everything. So I want to make sure I'm spending my time on the most important things. Now it turns out businesses have the same problem. So they, you know, how to make the best use of their resources, their people, their time, their money. Like, they have all kinds of big decisions they have to make. You know, in IT, it's stuff like, well, do we rewrite this legacy software in, you know, something new, or do we go buy something off the shelf, or do we outsource it to some third-party service that can do it for us? Or maybe it's something like, do we move into a new market space? You know, we're a software company. Do we try to spin off a consulting business? Do we try to sell this as an off-the-shelf product? Do we acquire another company? All these big decisions that they have to make. And the success of the business hinges on these decisions. Because if you make a bad one, it can really bring you down. So businesses put a lot of time and effort into getting that part right. So what if we thought of our careers like a business? So in your business, you obviously have you, and you have your family, and anybody else that around you that is important to you, your little inner circle. And you want to maximize value for your business. So you have talents, and you have money, and you have time, and you have resources, just like a business does. So how can you make the best use of all that stuff that you have to achieve success in your life and get what you want out of life? So businesses will put a lot of effort into doing this kind of thing in order to get it right. So today we're going to talk about steps that we can take as developers and as people to do the same thing and acting like a business. So one thing that businesses will do is create a mission, vision, and values. So this is sort of this guiding statement that's going to show them and show everyone else in the company what they're about and where they're going. So when we talk about mission, vision, values, there's 3 parts. The mission is, who are you? So what's your purpose? Why do you exist? Vision is, you know, where do you want to go? Or if you could imagine like 20 years from now, 10 years from now, and you look back on your career and your life and it's just huge success, what would that look like? And values, you know, what things do you value? What are your priorities? That type of thing. What's important to you? So I worked at a company a few years ago that they went about creating these mission, vision, values, and they put a lot of effort into it. They brought in this outside firm to help them with it. They took employee surveys. They would come up with like a rough draft and like show it to people in the company and say, hey, what do you think? And this took like a month or two because they were trying really hard to get it right. Because they're going to use that mission statement to drive all the decisions that they make. So every time they have a tough decision to make, they're going to look at that and say, okay, does this line up with where we're going? So everybody in the whole company can look at that and say, okay, we're all going in this direction. Well, we can do the same thing ourselves too. Because we have a lot of tough decisions to make too. And you know, it may not seem as big a scale as do we acquire another company for several $1 million, but to us it's a big deal. You know, do I go take another job? Do I take this promotion? Do I move to another city? Do I get married? Do I have kids? You know, all that kind of stuff is a big deal. So how do you go out and making those decisions? So again, we want to involve others in this process because, you know, just like that company I said involved their employees, you know, your family, they're part of your business as we're calling it. So, especially if like your family is something that you value, then they should have a say in this kind of stuff too. So take Urban Meyer as an example. You know, he famously was this, you know, super workaholic in Florida. He left Florida because he had health problems. You know, he had kind of ignored his family. When he came to Ohio State, you know, they came up with rules for him like, you know, he's going to be at home for dinner, he's not going to be on his phone, and he's going to try to go to his kids' sporting events, that sort of thing. So that's what we're talking about. He laid down those ground rules with his family so that he would do the right thing and he would know how to make the right decisions. So here's an example of mission, vision, values. This is for the Canadian Cancer Society, and I just pulled this off the internet. There's probably a lot more examples out there. So their mission is, the Canadian Cancer Society is a national community-based organization of volunteers whose mission is the eradication of cancer and the enhancement of the quality of life of people living with cancer. So that's who they are, that's their purpose, that's why they exist in the world. Their vision is that they create a world where no Canadian fears cancer. And their values are equality. They focus on the people they serve, cancer patients, families, donors, and the public. And we will strive for excellence through evaluation and continuous improvement. And caring, we are committed to serving with empathy and compassion. So you can come up with this sort of thing for yourself. You know, what things are important to you? What's your vision for your life? And what things do you value? So a lot of times the values, you know, it's sort of like a bullet point list. I value this and this and this. And you can do this for your career. You know, you may say, I value agile development practices, I value testing, I value, you know, good design principles, I value communication. But then you can also do it for your life as a whole. You know, I value my family, I value having free time to exercise, or whatever it is that you're into doing. You may value working on open source projects, whatever it is for you. But the key is to write all this stuff down. So, and you can take your time. This isn't something that you necessarily have to sit down in 20 minutes and be done with it. You know, think through it. You know, if you're married, ask your wife for her input. You know, do it together, and just take some time to really think about what it is that you want and that where you want to go. Because the next step after this is we're going to set goals. So goals can be short-term, as in, you know, what I'm going to get done today, or what I'm going to get done this week. Or it can be, you know, what I want to get done, where I want to be in a year, or 3 years, or 5 years, or whatever it is. You typically have a wide range of goals. And we want to create these goals based on our values. So we can create all kinds of goals, but do they actually line up with your values? So like if one of your values is, you know, you value having free time to spend with your family, but then you set a goal of, well, I want to, you know, I want to go and speak at 50 conferences next year and travel all over the country. Well, then that's conflicting. So that's where, you know, it's one thing to set a goal, and especially if it's something like Code Mash and you get all fired up and you want to do all this stuff. But, you know, we want to keep things in perspective too, that there's more than just the world of Code Mash. You know, it's a bigger picture. There's more to life than that. But we do want to set goals. So a goal is just a way of saying, you know, I want to go in this direction, I want to focus on that. So the reason you do that is, again, we don't have enough time in the day. So a lot of times the things we want to do are things we're not already doing. So we have to find time for these things. So how in the world do you do that? So let's say you want to lose weight and you want to exercise, you know, 3 times a week at night. But at night you feel like you're so busy and you don't have time to do it. Well, if you set a goal, you're rearranging your priorities. You're saying, I'm going to make working out a priority. I'm going to come up with not just a goal, but a specific plan. You know, I'm going to work out Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 7 until 8, and I'm going to do this one of these activities, and I'm going to do it here, and I'm going to do it with these people. And coming up with a specific plan of like what it is that you want to do and how you're going to get there. Because you can just say, oh, I want to lose weight. But if you don't actually have a plan to succeed, then you're going to have a hard time succeeding. So good companies don't succeed by accident. They succeed because they set a goal, but then they take all the steps they have to do to follow through with it. And I think that's where a lot of people fall short. You know, go to the gym in December and then go to the gym in January. There's like twice as many people there in January. And then go in February and it's back to normal again. It's like, hey, I don't have to wait for machines or whatever, and it's back to, nice and peaceful. Well, those are all those people that set a goal, but they didn't actually like come up with a plan and write it down and say, I'm going to do this, and they didn't draw a line in the sand. They let all this other stuff come in and get in the way. So then as you're going towards these goals, you want to review how it's going. So, let's say you set a one-year goal to do something, you get to the end of the 1 year, and maybe it went well or it didn't. So look back and say, okay, how did that work? What could I have done better? What went good, what went wrong? Or sometimes your priorities change too. Like you may set a goal that you want to do this in the next year, and then 6 months to the year, you realize that you want to change directions. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Because you're sitting down and making a conscious decision. It's not just letting this thing float away. It's saying, okay, well, something happened, and now this other thing is more important to me, so I'm going to do that instead. So again, our goal, if we've created those values, and the mission and the vision and all that stuff, we should try to spend more time doing the things that we value, right? So now that we have the values, we can actually go ahead and come up with a plan to do that. Because if you just let your schedule get filled in with stuff, things will fill it in. And it may not be what you want to fill it in. So you need to make sure that you can push things away. Sorry. Brian in here?
You just need something?
Yeah, you give me some water.
Yeah.
Alright, so again, along with the goals, we need to take ownership of our lives. Oh, thanks. And a lot of this is being proactive and not reactive. So I really was struggling back in the winter. I said I had kids. I go to work, I come home, we eat dinner, I play with the kids, I put them to bed at like 8. And then I would have this long list of stuff I have to do. I have to pay bills, I have to fix stuff around the house, I have to do this and do that. And I would work on this stuff, not work related, or not hacking on code. And I would do this other work until 10:30, and then I would go to bed. And I would do this every day. It was really bringing me down. Because when I have no free time, I just want to sit and relax and do nothing or watch TV or talk to my wife or whatever it is I want to do. But I'm doing all this other stuff that to me just is not that important to me. And a lot of it has to get done. But, I kind of made a decision that said, okay, I'm going to take a look at what I am doing. And I got to cut something out because, there's something there's something's got to give here. So if I want to do the things I really want to do, I need to take something out. So I tried to find some things I could take out that were less than necessary. And then I just went and did the things that were a priority first to me. So for example, my wife wanted to start working out, so I'm like, okay, well, I'll do it with you. Well, I don't have an hour, 3 days a week to do that, but I'm going to do it anyways. And I'm going to let all that other stuff figure itself out. So if I have stuff I have to fix around the house, it's just going to wait a little longer. Or I'll get to it on a weekend, and I'm not going to feel bad about it. Because I consciously, and again, I only have 24 hours. I'm going to sit down with my 24 hours and I'm going to figure out how I'm going to use it to the best of my ability. So, if I only get one chance at life, I want to be excellent at everything that I do, which means that I need to be disciplined because it's hard to stick to your plan and stick to your goals and make the best use of your time every day because you're going to be tired and frustrated and stressed out and you're not always going to want to do the right thing. But I'm going to try hard to do it because, if I only get one chance, I'm going to make the best of it. So when you're at work, we all have things that we're good at. And just like a business has things that it's good at. So we want to find our value proposition in life. So this is a huge deal for businesses. And there's a book called Good to Great, and it's been out for a while, now, like 10 years. And it's all about comparing companies that are similar, comparing the ones that succeeded during the same time as another one that didn't succeed. And look at what they're doing. And one of the common themes is that the ones that were good, you know, could be good at a bunch of things, but the ones that were great found the one thing that they were great at, got rid of the other stuff, and then went and did the thing they're great at. Like, I had no idea that Walgreens used to have like food service, like restaurants and stuff. I had no idea. But at some point back in the day, they said, you know, hey, we have these you know, fast food stores, and we have these pharmacies, and we think we can do better at pharmacies. So we're going to get rid of these food stores, and we're just going to focus on being the best pharmacy that we can. So apparently that's what they did, because they're still around. So the same thing applies to you at work. And I think this specifically applies to work, because there's a wide range of things you can do. You could be a developer, you could be like an architect, you could be a manager, you could be a project manager, you could, you know, do more business analysis stuff. There's a wide range of things that we can do. You could be a back-end guy doing database stuff, or you could be like a front-end designer. So you probably over the course of your career are going to have chances to do multiple different things. And the key is finding out what you're good at. And I think the best example is developers that get offered the chance to go up into management. So we think of like climbing the ladder, you know, think of like the, you know, you start as a developer, you move up, and then the next step is a manager, and the next step is I don't know what. But we think that we need to climb the ladder. So there's this thing called the Peter Principle, and the Peter Principle says that you will rise until you reach a level of mediocrity. So let's say that you're you know, you graduate from college and you come in as a junior developer and you do really good, and after a while you become a lead developer, and then you do that for a while and you're really good at being a lead developer, and then you become a manager, and then you're a decent manager and you're just okay at it, so then you just stay, you know, a manager for the rest of your life. Well, you may be a good manager, but you could have been a great lead developer. But there's always that temptation to keep saying, well, I got to keep moving up. You know, I know some people that they've been doing the same job for 2 years and they really like it and they're doing well at it, but they just feel like they should be moving on for some reason. And maybe that's true. Maybe that's their inner motivation stirring them up and saying, you know, I want a new challenge. But at the same time, you know, we should be thankful for what we have. If we're in a good situation and we found something that we're really good at, then we should stay there, maybe. So if you want to be a developer your whole career, there's guys still doing that are, you know, older. Uncle Bob Martin, you know, Ken Beck, these guys have been around for like 20, 30 years, and they're still writing code. And they're just very, very, very good developers. And, you know, there's no end to the development problems that we need to solve. Technology's always changing. I don't really see it ever getting boring. There's always something new out there that I have no idea how to do, that I might end up having to do. And I can learn how to do it, and I can get better at it, and I feel like there's a lot of challenge there. Now, that's not to say that there's anything wrong with moving into management, because maybe you'd be a really good manager. You know, I mean, I've worked for really good managers that used to be developers, and I'm glad that they did that, because they're really good at being a manager. But, again, it's about you figuring out what you're best at and what you want to do. And maybe that's just within the realm of development, too. Maybe you say, I feel like I could be a really good front-end guy, or I could be a really good you know, database guy on large-scale database systems. And finding where that spot is and focusing on how you can be the best you can at that. Because if you can be better than everybody else at that, then you're always going to have a job, because you're going to be in demand. Experiences are relevant. Accomplishments are everything. So, you know, businesses are always trying to create more value and earn more money, and they're always trying to get better. And they're always coming up with a plan of, okay, for the next year, how are we going to increase revenues or drive sales or whatever it is that businesses need to do. So for you, it should be about, how can I provide more value at work? You know, how am I going to provide value to my team, to my company, let's say in the next week? What are the things I'm going to do? Or maybe on the project that you're on, what are the things you're going to do? So again, let's come up with a list of things that you can find that you can do like that. And then try to seek those things out and do it. So let's say that you know automated builds on your team. And then, so deployments are, you know, very stressful and a huge pain because of this. So you say, I can provide a lot of value if I can get these builds automated in the next 3 months. So maybe you try and find time or ask for time to go ahead and do that, or sell why you should do that to your team or your boss. Say, like, we can automate these builds, we can save all this time and not have all this risk on, you know, deployment night when everybody's tired because it's like 9 at night or something. and then keep track of those things. So write down all those accomplishments. You know, every month write down something that you accomplished. Because a lot of people, when you get to your review at the year end, like you'll fill out a form, and one of the things are, what are your accomplishments in the last year? Well, now you have accomplishments to write down. One, because you wrote them down, and two, because you actually made a plan to accomplish something, rather than just wait for the work to come to you. I mean, you all are experts at what you do, and you're all very much experts on the team that you're on, and whatever system it is that you work on. If you've been there any amount of time, you really are going to get the intimate knowledge of the system, and you know all the ways to improve it, and you know it better than somebody else does. So you can find a way to say, hey, look, we could make this area of the system better. It can make it easier for the users to do what they do, or it can make it easier for developers to get stuff done, or easier for us to secure the system, or whatever it is. So some people, you know, you hear about these people that got somewhere by paying their dues because they have seniority, and that's a very unempowering position to be in. Because then you feel like, you know, as soon as like the new guy comes in, that's like this real smart young guy, and he's got all these wild and crazy ideas, and people are all excited about what he's bringing, then you start to like build walls and try to protect your little territory. And that's no fun at all, because now you don't have any confidence in your own abilities because you're trying to protect yourself. I'd rather go out and earn my job every single day. And also, if you are, let's say you're the expert on this legacy system, and you've tried to make it so that you're irreplaceable, the problem is, you're now irreplaceable. So then when the position, the nice, good position comes up, and they have to promote someone, they'll say, well, we can't put John in that position because we need him to keep this other system up, so we're going to go find somebody else. I don't want to be in that situation. I want to be replaceable. So to me, like, let's say I'm leading a team. I go in, and there's all kinds of problems, and they need me to help lead the team and guide them in the right direction. My goal is that at some point, they don't need me at all. That I can offload all the responsibilities that I have on other people. Not because I'm lazy, because then they can pick me up and move me to another team, and this other team can just keep on functioning on their own. See, now I provided value here, and that value is continuing to grow, and now I'm over here doing this other thing. So that kind of thing, that'll get noticed real fast if you can pull that off. So I have a beef with American culture. And my beef is that we are so individualistic. We all live in our little castles, and we do everything we can to be completely independent from the world around us. And we want to earn enough money so that we can retire easily, or retire early, whatever it is. We don't want to ever ask for help. We want to be able to handle everything ourselves, and all that kind of thing. And by doing that, we kind of shut people out. And maybe that's not done on purpose, but that's what happens. So many people are so afraid to inconvenience people. So again, I have kids, young kids, and we have a lot of friends that have young kids also. And some of these people have never been out like on a date without the kids in like 2 years. And several times I'll go to them and be like, hey, you guys want to go out sometime, bring your kids over, because their kids will love to play with our kids. It's not hard for us. And no one ever takes us up on it. I have not once had anyone take me up on that. Because they're so afraid to inconvenience me. They're like, oh, well, he's got kids too. I don't want to make it hard on him. And I offer. And that just really bothers me, because I don't know what it is. Why do we feel like we need to be so independent? Now, this especially applies to us, because we work, most of us probably work in an environment where it's very team-oriented, where you're on a team of people. And communication is so important that people try to put everybody in the same room together so they communicate better, because even being in separate cubicles is too hard.
John, they're probably thinking, oh, we don't want to have to reciprocate and take his kids here. That'd be crazy.
Well, they might be doing that. But you know what?
John, you want to take my 5 kids?
I don't know about that.
No, exactly.
Well, yeah, I'll take your 5 kids, but you have to take my 2 kids twice then. But you know what? So that's where you should go and inconvenience someone else. So if I went to Brian and say, no, I'm serious. If I went to Brian and said, hey, I really need a favor. You think you could watch my 2 kids? Now he won't feel so bad about asking me to watch his kids. Or if I offer, he'll be like, oh, well, he kind of owes me one. So if you owe somebody a favor, then that's a connection you have with someone else that now maybe they'll reciprocate it. Or the other day I bought some people lunch at work, and now they'll probably want to go out to lunch again so that they can buy me lunch. So that just kind of builds on itself. and be a team player. So, you work with people on a team in a very close team environment. So, we should try to make the lives of each other's lives better, because if we can work together better, and we enjoy working together, we're going to communicate better, we're going to be more successful. So I've kind of had this progression of how I think about software development, and I didn't purposely start thinking this way, but I just kind of noticed it. So when I graduated college and I first started my job, I was like a kid playing with toys. I just wanted to hack on the latest technology. At work, I wanted to do cool stuff with new technology. I wanted to be in the latest thing. .NET came out, and I was doing C++, and I tried to find a way to get into .NET, which I did, and that was a good thing. And then after a while, I started to think of things more in terms of how can I provide value for the business. So, technology is obviously important because it can help us get things done better, in a new way, faster, more reliable. But I wanted to help the business to grow and to find ways to maximize the value of our time for the business. And now I started to take it as, how can I improve the lives of people through software? So we have users. I want to help the users do their job by creating software that they enjoy using and helps them get stuff done easier and faster. I want to make the lives of the management and business people better by helping them succeed, by doing a good job at my job and helping the business make more money. But I also want to improve the lives of the people on my team, because we're all working on this together. So again, like I said, if we can enjoy working with each other, then we're going to be much better at what we do. So that's the best thing about where I'm at now. So I work at IGS Energy now. And I love going to work. I'm excited when it's Monday because I get to see the people that I work with. And that's great. I mean, the work is good too. But, some days the work isn't that great, just like any other job. But I'm really excited to go and see the people that are there. And I hope that it's the same way for the people that I work with. And some of them have said, hey, this place is great. It's really helped me out. Because that's just going to make your whole life better, and it's, again, help you going to achieve your goals, because instead of coming home from work all tired and stressed, you're going to come home from work a little more energized than you were before. Alright, so let's just get this out of the way right now. Bad things are going to happen to us, whether we like to think about that or not. At some point, we're going to fail. And at some point, some seemingly random thing is going to happen to us that's not our fault, that is not something that we enjoy. The question is how you handle that. So some of you, I don't know if you've seen this little poster, this is called the responsibility process. And this is talking about our reaction to negative things that come about. So, let's say that you are working on a project at work and you miss your deadline and you're late. And you start down here and you're going to blame other people. You'd say, well, we were late because, I had to work with this other team over here and follow their process, and it didn't go well at all, and they were late, and they didn't communicate well, and that's why, it's their fault. So you're taking almost no responsibility at all yourself when you say that. So the next step up is to justify it and say, well, yeah, we didn't get done on time, but, it was just really hard to work with this other team, and we really struggled with it. And then maybe you move a little higher up to shame, where you say, yeah, we didn't get it done on time, and, I just can't do it. I'm just not good at working with other people. So now you take the responsibility, but instead you just beat yourself up with it. And then maybe you move to obligation. Well, we didn't get this done on time, and it's really difficult. I have to work with these other people and follow their stupid process. If I didn't have to do that, we could do better. And then sometimes people will quit, and this doesn't mean quit your job. This means quit as in just give up and quit caring. Ideally, we move up to responsibility, where we say, you know what, we didn't get that done on time, and we had some trouble, so let's take a look back at what went wrong and what we could do better, so that the next time we can handle this better and we don't deliver it late. So now I take an ownership of it, and I'm taking responsibility for it. So all these things down here, all the control is out of my hands. It's all over there with this other team, and they're the problem. Well, if they're the problem, and you can't do anything about it, well, where does that leave you? That doesn't leave you in a good spot at all. I'd rather say, well, let's work with them, and I'm going to take responsibility of it, and I'm going to go and figure out how to do this. Another example we had at work. We did this big project, and it was, we ended up wasting a lot of time because the business people that were giving us requirements changed their mind. And we weren't talking to the right people. Well, we can say, oh, well, it's all their fault. You know what? Our CIO does not want to hear, oh, it's their fault. He doesn't care. All he sees is we didn't get our stuff done on time, and now we're having to waste money undoing things and fixing it. Whereas I rather say, hey, let's see how we can work better with them. No, we didn't talk to the right people, and when they were talking, we weren't actually listening. So again, this is another thing I've learned, how I realized that software development is about people. I used to go into meetings with the business users, and I would, we're discussing some new feature or whatever, and I already have a preconceived notion in my mind of how it should work, and how it should look, and how it should function. And I'm half going in there with my list of arguments in my head all lined up, so expecting them to ask certain questions so that I can give them the answers to get them, to steer them into what I think is right. So instead I started going in and actually just sat there and listened. And not just listen, but actually hear what they have to say. And hear like where they're struggling and what they like and what they don't like. Because then, once I did that, my eyes kind of opened up a little bit. I said, hey, wait a minute. This is what we did wrong, and you've been telling us this the whole time, and we just didn't listen. And that's exactly what they ended up saying. Like, yeah, we've been saying that for a month, and now we're finally doing it. Well, if we would have just listened earlier on, maybe it would have gone better. So, we need to be confident in what it is that we believe. So, and a lot of this comes down to practicing what you preach. So let's say that you believe that test-driven development and automated testing is the best and fastest way to develop software in the long term. Well, if you are in a place that doesn't value that sort of thing, and you have a deadline that you need to meet, what are you going to do? Do you really think that's the best way to develop software? Because if you are, you should do it. And if you don't, and you can't articulate why that's the best way to do it, then why should you do it? Or you're probably not going to do it, because as soon as things get stressful, you're going to fall back to your old habits. Or maybe let's say you have someone on your team. Let's say you're just a normal developer on your team. You're not in a lead role. And your lead developer, your architect, is doing something that you feel is like the wrong way to do it. Totally the wrong way to do it. It's bringing your team down. Do you just sit there and live with it? Or do you actually step up and try to have a conversation with them about that? 'Cause that's not easy to do, to confront someone. Because those people usually are somewhat strong personalities, and maybe you aren't. I'm not saying like be confrontational, get in their face, but say, hey, what about this? And when they refute your idea, then actually be able to articulate, well, look, if we could do this, then we wouldn't have as many bugs because we could have these automated tests we could run. And if we have these things run in a build server, it'll run every time we check in. We'll find out exactly when something goes wrong. Remember that problem we had last release where those bugs went to production because we had to make that change at the last minute? We could have just, I have these tests here for this feature I did last week, and I can run them all and say, show you that they're all working. So, actually believe what you say and be willing to act on it. So many, I feel like a lot of people are afraid of doing something wrong at work, or afraid of taking a risk and having it not work out. And what is it that we're actually afraid of? Are we afraid of getting a bad review? That's to me what I think of, that people are afraid that their annual review is going to come around, and someone's going to say that they didn't do a good job, and maybe they won't get a promotion, or they won't get as good of a raise. How many people have actually got fired for taking a risk? Now, I'm not talking about being reckless here. If you go and, say, I'm throwing away this .NET, I'm doing this all in Ruby on Rails, and I'm not telling anybody, and I'm just going to put this in production, and then they, you might want to tell somebody before you do that, or something like of that nature. So you still have to deliver. You still have to respect, the things, what your company is set up, and sort of the guidelines of your IT department. We use these technologies, and we do things a certain way to some extent, but at the same time, I don't want to ever not do something because of fear. So they're not going to fire you for taking a risk. And again, if you believe this is the best way to do it, and you go and do it, you're probably going to succeed, right? And maybe it won't be like this huge success at first, but you'll be one step closer to doing it better the next time and being more successful. So those to me are the best employees, the ones that are willing to take a risk and point out something that can be improved, and then they have a plan for doing something about it. And they don't just sit back and do what they're told or whatever. Those people they have their place in the world too, and they can have a job and get a good review. But again, I want to take control of things. So if I'm in a situation where I have that lead developer who's not doing things the right way, and I don't do anything about it, I've given up control of my ability to be successful. So now if I think that that's setting me up for failure and I'm not able to get my stuff done to the level of quality that I believe is, what should be sufficient, then now I have a problem. Because now it's out of my hands because I'm not willing to do something about it. And that's not a good place to be. Because you're giving up control, you're not going to be as successful, and you're just really not going to be as fulfilled with what you do and happy about your job because you're letting someone else dictate how you're doing things. And maybe you confront that person and it doesn't go well, and they don't want to write automated tests and they don't care about that kind of stuff at all, and that's fine. And maybe you need to go then find somewhere else that values those things and work somewhere else. But at least you gave it a try. So I'm all for giving things a try before you move on. But again, you should also be confident that you can go and find another job if you need to. Because then that empowers you at the job you're at now to go and do what you feel is the right thing. Because you're like, well, if by chance this doesn't work out, I have a plan for what else I can do. Alright, so overtime is part of what we do. Sometimes you have a deadline and there's this push at the end of the deadline to get things done. Or sometimes production is down and there's fires and you have to stay late until you get the server back up. And that kind of stuff is normal. Then there's the times where you're working somewhere and they ask you to estimate a project and you say, yeah, I can do that in 6 months. And they come to you and say, well, you have to have it done in 3 months. Or maybe they don't even ask you at all for an estimate and just say, you need to have this done in 3 months. And it's not realistic at all. And you go back to them and you try to work with them. And you say, well, we said we couldn't get it done in 6 months, but if we trim the scope down, so let's just focus on these essential things that need to be done, and maybe bring on some more people to the team. And if we can do this and this, then maybe we can do it. And a lot of times that involves bringing more people on or cutting out things that they don't want. Maybe they've already promised something to a client and they've already sold some big deal. And they just say, no, you got to stick with it, and you're going to all have to work Saturdays and work 60-hour weeks, and too bad. So, this happened to some friends of mine, that they had a project like this, and this went on for like a year, where they had this long death march, and like a whole year long. That year, 3 people in that IT department got divorced. Another guy, his wife started calling his job the other woman. His daughter built like a little effigy of the building and destroyed it. This is serious stuff. We laugh at it, but those are people's lives. And for what? So some executive can look good and get a bonus, or they could sell some deal and the business can make some more money. And those guys aren't going to get their spouses back. That guy's not going to get that year back with his kids that he missed. So, when you were in grade school, the bullies held you up against the wall of the school and took your lunch money. So now these bullies are holding you up against the wall and forcing you, they're taking away your free time and the time with your family and the time doing the things that you value, that are valuable to you as your little business, and forcing you to work extra for them. And a lot of you probably don't get paid for overtime either, so you're not even getting paid for it. So I'm here to say that you don't need to take that. If someone comes to you and really needs you to work there that bad, you can say no. What are they going to do? Are they going to fire you? They want you to work 60-hour weeks, so if you're working 0 hours, that's really bad for them. So it may seem like they have the control, but really you have the control, because they need you more than you need them. So you don't need to sacrifice your life for that sort of situation just to make them happy, because you probably don't want to work for that kind of person anywhere. There's plenty of other places you can work that are reasonable and that will treat you well and work with you to let you do the things that you value in a much nicer work environment than a long death march. So, I'm not here to say that all overtime is bad, and some of you may work 60-hour weeks and enjoy it. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I'm just saying that if you're in control of your life and your career, you may need to cut somebody loose and say, look, I can't work in this place anymore because it's not worth it to me. But, I guess my encouragement to you is be willing to stand up against that kind of thing. Because there's a lot of people that'll do that. There's a lot of command and control managers out there that are very, task-driven like that. And they may work 60-hour weeks and be workaholics, and they may expect you to do the same. But they don't value the things that you value. They don't have the family that you have. They don't like to do the things that you like to do. They may not have the work-life balance or want the kind of work environment that you value. Again, that's up to you. You're the one in control of your own career. That's up to you to make that choice. It's not in someone else's hands. So you and only you are responsible for your life and your career. So your employer is responsible for your job, and you are responsible for your career. So your employer gives you a job, they give you a task to do, and they pay you for it every 2 weeks. And most businesses will try to find a way to align what you're doing with where you want to go in your career. So if you go to your boss and say, hey, I want to start doing more mobile development, I know we have this mobile project coming up, they might try to put you on that. But they might also say, well, I really wish we could do that, but we really need you over here right now, and we're going to outsource this mobile project to this consulting company over here instead. So, that's fine. They're not being disrespectful by doing that. That's their right to do that because they're looking out for their best interest, which they should. They're going to try to look out for your interest too when it lines up with theirs. And again, that doesn't make them bad people or bad company. They're just trying to maximize value for their business. So I feel like a lot of people kind of think of the employer-employee relationship kind of like a weird sort of indentured servitude that like anything you tell me to do, I will do, and that type of thing. And I would rather think of it as like a vendor-customer relationship where businesses have a relationship with an outside vendor that does something, whether it's consulting services or janitorial services or catering or whatever. And they have this mutually beneficial relationship that they keep going. And at some point, if it doesn't work, if it's not beneficial to either side, then they cut it off. So that's kind of how I prefer to think of things. And that's not just because I am a consultant, so I guess that is the nature of what I do. But it kind of takes you out of the mindset that my employer owns my job, my career, and it puts it on me to drive where that goes. So again, like if you have career goals that you want to go a certain way, and your company there's not a way for you to get there, maybe that's a time for you to switch over to something else. And again, that doesn't mean you're a quitter or anything. It just means that you have plans, you have a goal that I want to get to this spot, and I don't think I can get there from here. And that's totally okay. Just like your company may say, well, we can't put you on this mobile project. You may have to go work somewhere else to do that mobile development. There's another saying, change your job or change your job. So, if you can't change your job to be the way that you want it, if you can't convince that your team to adopt automated testing, that's what you value, maybe you need to go somewhere else. But again, if you don't do it, you've given up control to the company that you work for because now you don't have control over being able to get where you want to go. So a friend of mine tells a story, he was talking to the developer, and he's like, hey man, what are you working on these days? And he's like, oh yeah, I'm working on all this cool stuff, I'm doing all this, iOS development and stuff, and it's really cool, I'm really geeking out on it, I like it. I'm like, wow, that's cool, where are you working? Where are you doing that? He's like, oh, that's not what I do at work. I do this, crappy web forms app, on days, and I hate it. Well, clearly he was passionate about doing the iOS development, and not so passionate about the web forms development. So we should try and find a way to do more of what we value and what we are passionate about. So, that guy, if he went and did what he had to do to get an iOS job where he was getting paid to do that, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, that would be ideal. Now, sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes, you can't change jobs for various reasons, health insurance or whatever it is, and that's understandable. But again, if you can't change your job to what you want, maybe you need to go somewhere else. So, like I said, I only get one chance at life. I only have so many years out of my life that I can work. So I want to make the best of it. And I don't want to take anything for granted either, especially the people around me. Because things change way too fast. It may seem that things have been the same for a while, but really things are always changing. Your project may end and you may roll off to a different team where you're working with different people, or maybe some friends of yours move away, or maybe you don't have any kids and then you have a kid, or things just always change. You're never going to have the same situation tomorrow that you have today. So because of that, I want to really enjoy today. Whether it's my life, my career, whatever I'm doing, I want to take advantage of what I have now. I want to take time to go to lunch with people that want to go to lunch, because I may not be working with them tomorrow, and I may wish a year from now that they come up to my desk and ask me to go to Chipotle on Thursdays, but they're not asking me anymore because I don't work with them, or because we work across town or whatever. So I'm gonna go to Chipotle every Thursday as much as I can because I wanna hang out with these people and enjoy it. And I wanna enjoy the job that I'm in and enjoy what I'm doing. I love this quote, don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive and then go do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. So that applies to your life, that applies to your career, what you're passionate about in technology, whatever it is. Figure out, if you can figure out what that one thing is that you can be great at and that you love doing, and you can go and do that, or maybe you have something that's outside, or you just really love mountain climbing, you know, whatever it is, and finding time to go and do that kind of stuff. That's what's going to get you fired up. That's going to make you feel successful in your life and your career. More than any amount of money that you make, or any accomplishments that you have, that you can just get up in the morning and say, I'm really excited to go to work, or I'm really excited to go mountain climbing because I have time to do that, or whatever it is that you get to do. So some other stuff that, if this is your kind of thing that you might be interested in, this is Leon Gersting. So a lot of you probably seen Leon at some point around town. He has this talk called You, which he's been giving in keynotes like all over the country in the last year or so, and it's kind of along the same vein as what I've been talking about, but he talks about other different stuff, and it's just another perspective. It's really good and it's recorded, so if you just, you know, you can either get the slides, I'll have the link to the slides afterwards, or if you Google, you know, the words I put up there, you can find it. But I really respect Leon because he's an outside the box thinker. He really values finding what you're passionate about. Actually, it was his story about the guy that was doing the iOS and the web forms. But he's really good. If you went to Code Matches last year, you saw Leon, and he was hilarious. So he's always entertaining. This is Brian Prince. He's the architect evangelist for our area at Microsoft. And before he did that, we worked together. He was my boss. And he's the one that really taught me a lot of this stuff. He's the one that taught me the think of your career like a business type of thing. So he recorded this series of like 30 or so podcasts called Driving Your Career. And they're real short, like 5-10 minute things, so you can listen to them pretty quick. And they're all, you know, he did this several years ago, but it's all really good stuff. And he goes into a lot more stuff, you know, for developers working with people, you know, things that we're not typically used to doing and that kind of stuff. But he's a great guy. I really respect him a lot. I respect his ideas. So I really encourage you to go out and listen to that. Now, I don't have it in here, but if you're looking for a book, The Passionate Programmer by Chad Fowler is really good. And it's all telling his story of software development and how he found his passion in life. He was a jazz musician. You know, he played saxophone, I forget what it was, in like these jazz bands. He's actually really good at that. And he was passionate about that, and he was also passionate about software development. So it's a lot of anecdotal stuff about how he found what he was passionate about. And it was really good read. It's really easy read, you know, short chapters, 3-4 pages. But it's really good. And I mentioned this book, Good to Great. This is a more business-focused book. If you want to be, you know, a manager, or understand how managers think, understand how businesses think, which I think is all good to understand whether you want to do that or not. This is really good because, again, it was about businesses that succeeded versus businesses that didn't, and like doing a scientific case study in comparison to them and seeing how, what were the things that they did to become successful, and how did they move past the good stuff to find what they're great at. So even if you don't want to be a CEO of a company, which a lot of us probably won't ever be, it's really good just to think about for your own self. And this would make me think about, you know, finding your value proposition and finding that one thing that you're good at and just doing as much of that as you can. So again, here's the link to my the presentation if you want the slides. My name is John Kruger, and I'm an independent consultant, so I'm always looking for work. I mean, I'm not looking for work right now, but someday I'll be looking for work. So if you need help with .NET, Ruby on Rails, TDD training, agile coaching, that kind of thing, that's the kind of stuff that I do. So thanks.